Welcome, everybody. I am, I guess, kind of the host with the other two hosts today, Comic Large Wrench. I am here with MANACASTER Ben and MANACASTER Willie. How are y'all doing today?
Very good, thank you. It's Wiley here.
Wiley, yeah. I wasn't sure how exactly, because I've seen it pronounced both ways, so.
No worries, no worries. Doing great.
Yeah,
Excited to introduce you to the game.
I'm excited to play.
Right, so that's no problem there.
It's pretty hard to get Ben wrong. Then again, I know a few people. So let's go ahead and get started off with a couple questions for y'all to start out. So, gotta give us an introduction to the game of MANACASTER.
You want to take this first one, Ben?
Sure. The best way to introduce MANACASTER is if you already know what this kind of card game is, like if you played Magic or Pokemon, then it's the card battle genre you love, streamlined to perfection. If that doesn't mean anything to you because you didn't play those games, all you need to know is this. You and your opponent battle with two decks of 50 cards. You use monsters and magic spells to beat the crap out of each other. It's very tactical, very much like more like chess than you might first imagine. There's no complicated timing rules. It's I make a play, you make a play. Then I do it, then you do it. Then we pass, then we beat each other up, and then we repeat. So what I mean by a streamlined card combat game is that we extracted the parts of cards games like Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Hearthstone and Gwent, and we extracted all those best sort of things, got rid of what we didn't like, and what was left over after that process is basically the game you see here today.
All right. Let's see. Let me get this, make sure everything is. That should be running. All right. So, got a question. How big is your team of creators and devs right now?
So the core team for I can speak for the engineering side is I would say the three main developers on this are myself, Seabass, and Zenthi, and Adeline also, who's not on here, but he's on a plane to New Zealand right now.
Oh, fun.
The engineering team is basically, I would say, four large, and then as far as play testing and content and outreach, Wiley, you can speak to that team size better than I.
There's about 4 of us right now, so I guess there's about 8 of us in total. With content,
I'm a few like back-end staff members, like people who help out cleaning the office and fixing shit. But like the dev team of the game is like
team.
I'd say we're getting close to like 10 people of the core team plus a few people here and there.
All right, that's good to hear. Let's see. What exactly inspired you guys to create MANACASTER?
Well, we both played Magic the Gathering when we were growing up. And we were playing back in the 90s, when we were teenagers. And we were very nostalgic for the sort of old school MTG where there was more of an emphasis on creature battle. And it was oftentimes a race to get the bigger hammer or to swarm the other person with goblins. So we decided to make a card game where the only way to win was through creature combat. The only way to kill your opponent is by bashing them with creatures. There's no direct damage. And we also we were fed up with like the complexity of modern MTG and games like it.
With lots of mechanics.
Yeah, like milling, searching your deck, and a lot of broken mechanics which are just frankly overpowered. So we've done a lot of cutting. We've just been cutting things away left and right, getting down to the core of what makes these games fun. So that's what inspired us.
All right, that's definitely got an appeal to many audiences, myself included, because, especially because I had never really got to play Magic in the early days. I'm still relatively young, even though I don't look it. That's the first spawning does to you. But I've always wanted to get into a game like Magic, but just the complexity that they added on to it, opposed to, slowly adding on whatever, like, if I had picked it up when I was younger, maybe it would have made more sense. That's why MANACASTER especially definitely has an appeal to me, and even just a younger audience that wants to get into that sort of game, but doesn't exactly have the resources or time to fully learn everything that was brand new and added.
Exactly. You said it perfectly. And I can tell you from someone who started playing Magic in 1994 that no, that wouldn't have helped. The game today is beyond my comprehension. The cards, each one, are just insanely complicated. And I know there are people who love the game still, but personally for me, I just think like I can't keep up, and I'm a veteran player.
Mm.
So the idea being, a lot of people said the same. Like I always heard Magic was fun and whatnot, and in their head, like when you think a card game like that, what you sort of what's implied on the box, on the side of the box, is you're gonna smash the crap out of your friends with monsters and magic spells.
Right.
What actually sort of ends up happening in most of these games, and I cannot tell you why why this happens, but this is what we've noticed is the designers just put in all these other things that let you do things besides smash your opponent with monsters and magic spells. And what that turns into is one of those mechanics ends up taking over the game. Like in Magic, control strategies that revolve around just making sure your opponent can neither cast monsters nor magic spells, nor can they smash you with them. I mean, we just instantly decided that didn't sound like a lot of fun.
Right.
So we looked at what made things like control strategies unfun, and well, what's the common denominator? Stopping your opponent from doing things.
Hmm.
And this is a good time to bring something up that I'm sure Wiley wants me to mention, which is that we have some of these golden rules that
Hmm.
go into the design of the game, where it's the things we forbid us as designers forever doing. And one of those is, it's sort of like a heuristic, it's a guiding light, is if something reduces the potential for interactions between players, monsters, and magic spells, it's probably wrong. And that means you can kind of infer so many things from that, and they would all be correct. For example, counter spells, nope, reduces interactivity. Forcing your opponent to discard cards, nope, reduces their ability to formulate a coherent game plan, which therefore reduces interactivity. Land destruction, I don't even have to answer that damn question. I build the whole game around you get one land every turn. Why don't we just let you kill all the lands while you're at it? Great, perfect. Yeah, nope, reduces interactivity. Unblockability reduces interactivity. Flying, of course, we had flying. We don't have flying anymore. Can you guess why? Yep, it reduces interactivity. So when you realize that all of these mechanics that you think are pivotal to the genre are actually absolute trash tier decisions by a game designer in like 1941 that somehow never got their cargo cult policies updated in 80 years, all these really bad assumptions, they all just distill down to a few simple rules of what not to do. So if it reduces interactivity between the two players, we don't do it. Another
We
golden
should. We should.
rule. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we should mention the fact that we only use mechanics that we can balance mathematically.
Oh yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole we can go into
Hmm.
if they want to, about how the math basically means we can't have power creep.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's going to be advanced for people who don't know about card games yet, because we'll get there for sure. But basically, like, we have no incentive to sell more cards, meaning we have no incentive to dilute the value of your existing cards. Like, it's not a collectible game. I don't benefit from making you always want the newest, most powerful cards. My benefit as the designer is that you keep playing the game because it remains balanced after however many days, weeks, months, years, decades, millennia, whatever. So
Right.
what?
So let me
Go ahead.
elaborate on
Yeah,
that a little bit.
go ahead.
Which, like, with Magic the Gathering, people are always hunting the new set because in every new set, they tend to put out more and more powerful cards, which is a phenomenon they call power creep. And so people are always chasing after these new powerful cards, but like they have to buy these booster boxes, they call them, which are full of random packs, and most of it is garbage, like common chaff, which ends up going in a bin somewhere. And everyone's buying so many cards trying to get the good ones. But in Manicaster, all the cards are balanced for equal playability, and you just buy complete sets. So we're not going to do this random gambling mechanic.
Okay. So I guess in that case, so what's the plan for expansions, if there are any?
I'll take that one.
Ben?
Yeah, for sure. So we actually had a really interesting conversation about that today, which is, do we release in traditional expansion blocks, like 100 cards or so, or does it make more sense to do some sort of continuous release where we just drip a dozen new cards every few weeks? So obviously for the tabletop physical cards, we have to release them in packs of, at least 100 cards to make sense to ship it to a player. So if we don't consider the constraint of physical cards, my ideal is that we kind of just keep dripping out new cards every now and again, like we did the other day. We were just like, oh yeah, a player requested these cards. Let's whip them out and get them going. But the question is, what do players want in terms of? We'll be realistic here, which is we can't sell this game to you once and then support it for 20 years. There has to be a way that an enthusiastic player can somehow continue to financially support the game. Now, we're kind of not big fans of the subscription service models, but we're not against things like Patreon style models. The reason I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here is we're not sure because we're not sure what's in the best interest of the players. We don't know what they're going to respond to because we're still filling out the base set.
Mhm.
What I can say is plans for expanding the game are very robust. And the reason is because of our mathematical underlyings that Wiley just described. We have the
Right.
ability to
So
set. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Well, yeah, we have new cards lined up for expansions, and they definitely will definitely be selling tabletop sets of expansion sets. But we can't really tell you just yet what we're going to do for the digital game because we're still debating that ourselves.
Yeah,
So
what we want to avoid is like a continuous paywall that people have to keep paying to stay up to date. Like we talked about that originally, and like even for a few dollars a month, it could probably be enough. But there's just something about that that doesn't match our overall ethos.
mhm.
And so what we're going to do while the game is still bootstrapping itself, or in beta while we go live, is we're just going to keep adding cards until the base set feels like it's either getting too big or that we've kind of said what we need to say, and now players need to go into the depth of it and figure out, okay, I think we could probably end up releasing with around 800 unique cards, which is quite large for a base set, but
massive.
you'll see it's massive until you realize that if you know what one card does, you know what 10 of them do.
Hmm. I did notice
Like
that whenever I was going through and just kind of playing a little bit of the beta, just to kind of get a feel for the game before this. I did notice that there's a lot of cards that are very similar, but also unique in their own right, which really does
Exactly.
add a lot of. You could even say story building to that, if you really think about it, because it's you
Wiley, do you
have.
want to talk about implied lore versus flavor here and stuff like that?
Sure.
This is a
I,
cool
I
topic
I also
too.
want to
Mhm.
mention the fact that we are a singleton game. You're not allowed to run duplicates of any cards except for mana cards. So the reason why you have a lot of similar cards is if you want to build a strategy and you can't run duplicates of the same card, you can run other cards that are similar to it. Um, so that was
Forces
very
players to
interesting.
explore the real depth of the game because if they can play a second copy of one card, that's one card they're not going to play
Mhm.
otherwise. So if we include for the forever number of copies of a card in the deck we allow, that's the denominator of the fraction of how many cards that the players are ever going to actually friggin' use. It's going to create this like, oh, you only allow 4 of a copy. Well, they're only ever use 25% of the available cards then that meet their exact strategy. And so when you have a card that's like do 2 damage to a unit, do 2 damage to a unit and gain a life, or sorry, gain 3 life, do 2 damage to a unit and lose 3 life, but it costs less mana. Like if doing 2 damage to a unit is very important to your deck for some arbitrary reason, there are a hell of a lot of ways to do that. There's do 2 damage to a unit or do 1 damage to 2 units. 2 abilities chosen in one card. So the point is that we're going to force you to be very, very creative in getting that second copy of what you want. However, in the process, you're going to realize, holy crap, there's like 10 ways to get what I want. I actually have a whole new dimension of fine tuning on my deck. Do I want to save mana and burn life? Do I want to save life and burn mana? There's by forcing ourselves to design the game as a singleton one of game, it forces us to then answer the question, but what if I do want to play 4 copies of something in my deck? Well, of the 10 or 12 options, which of those 4 do I use? So what first seems like a restriction actually adds an entire new dimension of depth.
And I noticed that.
Yeah.
That is really nice to having that kind of, they all do somewhat the same thing, but it's also you have to make a decision because you make say for instance, if you have two defending units, and further along in the stream, we'll get into what all this means with the rewritten, well, not really rewritten, but just kind of simplified rules that I made, just to kind of make it a little bit easier. And I sent that over to Wiley as well. So if you want to take a look at those, then be my guest.
Wiley, shoot that over to me too. That sounds like a really useful little document.
So pretty much, and what I did with that was I just kind of went through that and really just went what was permanent with the internet version of like the actual software, because there's a lot of parts of it where it's like do this or that and find a way to write it down. Well, a lot of the game itself does it for you. So that's kind of what I went ahead and did. That just kind of took the initiative to hopefully maybe make it a little bit easier.
On that note, let me just cut you off right there like a real jerk and say it seems like that's something we should have done as a team. So first of all, thank you. Second of all, the rulebook, you're right, it's really meant as a procedural guide for how to play your first game and not screw it up. It's not meant for the digital game. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this as a basis for the digital quick start guide, and thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's
I owe you a little favor there for exposing my complete inability to lead my team on stream in public. No hard feelings.
Now, chill.
I will say though.
No, this is fantastic stuff though. I'm gonna take a read through while we're going along there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I did jump in on there, and you seem like you've summarized this. Yep, alert! It don't tap when attacking. Ambush. Yep, I love it. It don't tap when attacking. Perfect.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so this is a great guide. I assume that the viewers and the listeners can see this also right now.
I will pull that up here in a bit once we actually go through everything. I'm gonna have it kind of on the side of the screen, and then the other part kind of be showing and going through everything, just to kind of like visualize it, opposed to jumping right into a game and viewers who have never played a game like this are just like, well, what am I looking at?
It's a bit hard to follow along if you have no idea what you're looking at, but once you have that few minutes of intro where you're like, oh, that's a mana card on the bottom of the screen. I know what that does. I find that people go from feeling like intimidated and confused to before I just gotta tell this like mini story, and it's 5 stories rolled into one, and it takes about 3 seconds to tell. Sit down with a new player who's played a game like this before, maybe a few times in their life. They are completely confused. 5 minutes later, they're unconfused. 10 minutes later, they're playing. 20 minutes later, they're giving us fucking unsolicited suggestions for how we should change shit.
I can't tell you how many times I played someone for the first time they ever played, and they beat me. So
true blue. Like you didn't throw the game either. Like people just get it so quick.
Yeah, no.
They whoop your ass.
Yeah, a certain type of person, they just pick it up in 5 minutes and then they whoop my ass because I'm actually not the best player. But
you spend a lot of time playing to teach and not playing to win.
Right.
So
no, and I was kind of
say that.
I was kind of I went into with the whole mindset of like I could read through the rules first, or I can jump into a game to see, okay, if I don't have the rules, then how easy is it for me to figure out? Like I don't want to like gloat or anything, but I am relatively a smart person. So I went through.
You wouldn't be interested in this game if you weren't.
Look, my favorite game, board game wise, is either Stratago, Risk, or Catan. So that tells you anything.
Very nice. I've never played Stratago.
I have no idea how to pronounce it.
Me neither. I've never heard somebody say it aloud before, even though I've like known it forever. Yeah, so if you like this kind of game, you're inherently an intelligent person because you'll see the depth instead of just pretty symbols and goofy words.
You hear that, chat? So, if you play this game, you're smart.
It's smart, exactly. Yeah, you be real smart, play this game. I tell you what, daggum brainiacs over here.
Yeah, even though it's more streamlined than Magic and you don't have to read like a whole page on every card, you do get, in the late game, you get into very complicated situations where all the keywords, you have to think carefully.
Tons of conditional logic you have to follow. Sorry to jump in, Wiley, but like the real pain is when it's deep in the game. Like if I do this, he's going to do that. But if he could do this, and but after combat he has a removal spell, then he can do this. He untaps. Like trying to program the AI to handle this is, from my perspective, it's a bit of a bear. And so when you're a player trying to do this, it's equally very difficult. And the complexity does emerge from the fact that you can start stacking up keywords, which are all individually quite simple. But the complexity and the power goes up multiplicatively as you start stacking up like Twin Strike and Parry and Riposte. All of these things making your dude scarier and scarier and screwier and nuttier and harder to deal with.
Right.
So we get these big, massive board states in the end game if it lasts that long, but then they resolve themselves really quickly because one advantage usually can snowball very fast.
Mm-hmm. No, and I noticed that because there was plenty of times where I'd be way ahead of the AI, and I played maybe 3 matches. The AI has kicked my ass twice. First time I had no idea what I was doing. The second time I was like, okay, let's see what else the AI does if I do certain types of things. And the third time I was like, okay, let me actually build a deck and really like see what I can do. And that's when I beat them. I was like, okay, but the AI, I will give credit, great adaptability. It is probably one of the best AIs I played against in a game like this. That's not overpowered,
Really?
but not also like, oh wow, hey, this is like really easy to beat. Like I actually had to genuinely stop. Like, okay, well, if I play this card, then they can likely counter, judging by their deck, because they would choose like one build only, like only dark or only like earth or whatever. And like, okay, I understand like what they're going with. That means they could have this card, and then it makes you think like, okay, what is the possible counters I have to worry about, which really kind of like made it kind of like almost like playing against an actual player, not like one who's like extremely experienced, but someone who's played the game a couple of times and has an idea of what they're doing. So I will give y'all props on that.
Thank you. That is 100% credit to Zenthi, who came up with that on his own, unprovoked, after I struggled with a different approach for like over a week and wanted to rip my hair out. Kid came through, not a kid, I just call him that. Came through one day. I was like, Zenthi, you got an AI working? Show me the code. And I'm like, oh wow, that's a completely simpler, better approach. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked the players, I was like, yo, is this AI actually giving you good plays? It's like, yeah, it makes a few blunders here and there because it's obviously a very early prototype.
Mm-hmm.
But what people keep saying is what you say is like it's actually fairly competent. So I'll tip a little bit of our future hand that if someone finds this interesting, we'll go on another tangent on another show. But I have taken basically we have the game server, the ability to do the rules. It can run on its on like it's like a text process on any computer instead of being on Unity in a computer game.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is I can use the AI to play against the AI as many times as I want on like a server or a supercomputer and just simulate buttloads of games.
Right.
So what that means, right? So first of all, our current AI doesn't do any of that shit. It's really dumb by comparison to what we're working on. And don't worry, there will be difficulty settings. It will probably even try. I'm basically trying to learn from how chess gave its how chess gave the ability to play. If you go to chess.com and you play against a bot, it will adapt to your skill level
Mm-hmm.
as it figures out how good you are. And so what I want to do eventually is have one that's so good no human alive can friggin' beat it. And what we need to do with that is we need to run a tremendously large quantity of games on the supercomputer in parallel for run in front of it for like a week. Then do whatever this nonsense wizardry is, neural network type things, which I'm still learning about. But basically, this is what they did in a really stripped down sense to get these chess bots working. And the end goal is that we have the current AI also working with like a sort of super intelligence AI combining to give the gameplay experience that the user wants. Not that I want it to always be impossible to beat, but I want somebody to say, give me chess master mode. And then if it's good enough, I can put up prizes for beating it. So that's a little bit of like what's coming down the pipe, which is I can see this game is starting to get quite popular, and I can see people like the AI. And once you guys get good, you're gonna start thrashing it faster than we can improve the current method.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get too confident though, because eventually you're gonna play against like a fucking Amazon server or something.
So I will give y'all a little tip on live. So when I was playing against the AI the other day, when I beat them, I had a deck that was primarily just for healing and leeching health. Like I was a complete pain in the ass. It did not like it knew what to do against it, but it really didn't have any great counters. So
That's interesting. Can you send me like a screenshot or a link or the name of the deck? I want to see what you use and figure
I
out what.
yeah
Like, I want to see if
I'll
we
go
can
through it
tell
for sure.
you what deck to play against the AI, because it might have been a matchup thing. It's like I'm not sure what deck it used against you, but what I could do is go through my
It was
library of decks and
definitely
be
an
like,
only. It was
"Mhm,
all dark. That's all it was. It only used darkness.
it was mono lunar. That's weird. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing that. I don't. Let me find out where
Extract.
it's.
He's using extract.
Yeah, I was.
I would say
I
you should
kind
only
of
be
like
picking
built a.
from like the 20 or 25. Oh wait, did you tell it to play against a specific deck, or did it pick that deck?
It just picked it. I just hit AI and
Okay.
let it go.
Maybe it's picking from the wrong pool of decks because it should be. I don't remember giving it an only lunar deck. So let me make sure that
It might
my
just be pulling from the full public deck list.
that's
Hey,
what I'm
real
thinking.
quickly,
So maybe
hey
a filter that's
Dalton,
not
I
there.
I appreciate the sub, man. You're awesome.
Thank you for the sub. Sub to Manacaster and Wrench both, please.
But yeah, no. So I definitely noticed that going against them where it was only lower. No. Dalton, I love you, man. But so
Or don't. I mean, you'll never find out about the newest hottest shit. So I mean, some people just don't care about that. Like, it's okay to be behind on certain things in your life.
here for Rich, I love you, Dalton. But yeah, no. As I was saying though, I did notice that, and there's two times. One of them was lunar, and then I can't remember the other one was. I think it was no, it did have a hybrid, two or three hybrid cards in there, but overall, it still ran with kind of the same mindset. But that was the one time it actually did go only a mono deck, so I did notice that. The other two times it was totally fine. Like it, one of them was I think it was steel and I don't know what y'all call is it soul. I think if you're going lunar or what do you call them the light decks?
Real quick, so that
Solar and
everyone's
lunar.
aware, is there's 6 elements in Manacaster: solar, lunar, flame, water, earth, metal. Easy to remember because they're both 2 syllables and it's 3 pairs of opposites: solar and lunar,
Mhm.
flame and water, earth and metal.
Yep.
And so there are 9 hybrids, meaning cards that can be cast with one of 2 types of mana. So you'll see on the screen right now at the top there, top right, Lava Spark Condemnation, that costs 8 mana total, 3 of which must be either any combination of flame or metal. So there are 9 of those hybrids. Each of them is locked to a specific keyword. So flame metal is Twin Strike. So flame cards can have Twin Strike and 2 other types of abilities. Metal cards can have Twin Strike and 2 other types of abilities. But flame metal hybrids can only have Twin Strike on them. This is how we enforce a very strict sense of balance across the colors. Every hybrid has a 8 mana condemnation spell. So you'll see Lava Spark Condemnation, Sun Grace Condemnation, Moon Grace Condemnation, Lava Spark Condemnation, whatever. All of them are going to do, I believe those are the ones that do 8 damage for 8 mana. And in this case, it's going to grant the keyword Twin Strike. In the case of, say, Sun Grace Condemnation, which is solar and lunar, the sun and solar and earth, the sun and the tree, that keyword is alert. It don't tap when it attacks.
Let's
So,
just play a game and let's
Yeah,
get into
let's get into it. Yeah,
man. I think
yeah, I got a
we
couple of
covered it.
questions for later for sure. But definitely let's hop into it so we can show everybody kind of what the fun's all about.